Do you have a sense of rejection? Do you have that sense of abandonment? Are you afraid to set boundaries? Are you afraid to put yourself forward? Are you afraid of having disagreements, so that people will leave you, that there's some big emotional thing? You, my friend, have made a decision that you are not safe to express yourself. You have made this decision based on something that happened. A bunch of things that happened in childhood, or maybe later, but usually childhood, where you've made this internal decision. And it's something like, I will be rejected. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of being abandoned. So, here's my story, right? Now, I never thought I had any of this stuff going on through my 20s and 30s and maybe even 40s, until I went through a divorce, and then that led me into wanting to sort myself out and into coaching, right? And so when I went into coaching, I discovered that there were some things that were holding me back, and that I had some sense of not being enough, and this sense of fear of abandonment or fear of rejection. I didn't realize it though. It was deeply unconscious. Now, if you watch my last video, which is part of this one at the moment, the last video, standing in this spot, was all about that, my structural engineering background. 30 years in consulting engineering, doing structural engineering, which means I was holding up buildings. And part of holding up a building is columns, beams, roofs, floors. But it's also about the foundations that sit in the dirt. So part of what we needed to do there was to understand the dirt. How strong is the dirt? Is it clay? Is it silty sand? Is it quicksand? Is it rock? Right? And that would dictate how big our footings would be that would hold up the building, right? Now, it's the same thing in our self-esteem and that sense of rejection. If you've got that sense of abandonment, you've got that sense of loss, that sense of rejection, abandonment, that is a quicksand foundation, right? And if you've got these anxieties coming up because of that, that is your anxiety, part of your rejection. You're afraid that everyone's going to leave you, right? It's a very human thing to do, because you built it on quicksand. So what does the rock look like? And this is where I like to ask the question, what does the rock look like? The rock looks like I am enough. The rock looks like I'll never be abandoned. The rock looks like I can express myself and still have good relationships around me. The rock looks like, and this is what you need to explore in yourself. What does the rock look like that you'll be founding your self-esteem on, right? This is the thing. And it's really about making new decisions. Making new decisions that allow you to have that bedrock. So with me, where did my decisions come from? I can tell you where it came from, which I didn't even realize. It came from the fact that I was adopted at 2 days old. Wow. My paperwork said that I was adopted, and there was a date of what they call on the paperwork, a date of confinement, right? So you can imagine, you got on the paperwork, he's got eyes of this color, he's so long, he's got so much weight, he's got a little bit of hair, it's this and that, it's feeding well, all those things that are on your paperwork as a little baby, right? Little bambino. I can't do the size, it wasn't this big, I don't know how big I was, but small baby, right? And on the paperwork, it says date of confinement, which means the date that I was separated from my birth mother, or my mother, right? And I was separated. Well, it's a shocking, actually, thing to see on a bit of paper, that this is just a matter-of-fact statistic. And so that's when I realized later on, when I got into the coaching world after my divorce, that I realized, and I did a few things called timeline, which is a process that takes you back to the past and you rewire these things, part of the unconscious work. And I went back to the past and I realized that, oh my God, I actually do have some stuff from that adoption story, because I had what I thought was a pretty good life, you know. But you realize that biologically, neurologically, it had an impact, a big impact. And so this sense of self was tied to that moment, because you've got to remember, it was this whole other life, this whole other family, this whole other city I would have lived in, whole other environment. And instead, I had the life I did have, right? Now, I have a great life, don't get me wrong, but that moment of that confinement has had an impact, right? So I realized once I got these coaching tools, I could sort myself out, right? Because I'm an adult. I'm now 50 years old. My God, that sounds old. 50 years old. And there I was with that problem, this lack of sense of self. So what I realized is I can rewire it using NLP, the timeline, hypnosis, meditations, belief change techniques, and a range of other things. And so from that, the one that I was working on was I'm enough, but it morphed into that sense of rejection, that sense of abandonment, and having that solid foundation. So that's my little story on myself. That's my little story on my engineering background. It's my little story on my adoption background that has led me to focus on the world of identity. Who you think you are. You gotta remember, when I was born, my name was Jeremy. And of course, that was left off my birth certificate, and mum and dad named me Matthew Tait. And so as a result, now, my whole life I'm Matthew Tait. But there's this whole other weird kind of little sliding doors moment where I could have been Jeremy, right? So it's a very interesting story. It's a weird thing to consider, because my identity inside myself is Matthew Tait, right? This is the thing. And so if I can heal that sense of abandonment, please don't get me wrong, I don't blame my birth mother. It was a tricky situation she was in too, which is a whole nother story. It's more about me healing myself as an adult. Now, the good thing about coaching is I have the tools to sort myself out. I have the tools, and I have rewired a lot of this past. Some will still come up, that's okay. But why I'm motivated by identity, your beliefs, your values, the things that drive you, the decisions you've made about what things mean. I love these things because you can change yourself. That is my message to you. I hope it's coming through the screen right now. You can change yourself. I wholeheartedly believe that. And so that's why I'm writing programs. That's why I'm revamped my website for MatthewTait.com. Anyone out there can look at that. I'll put the links down there below. And I'm passionate because I love my coaching. I love eliciting someone's values. I love eliciting people's beliefs. I love giving them that techniques and tools they can use at home. I want you to go home by yourself and be able to do all this stuff for yourself. Takes a few goes, but you will get it. And with videos, I can be teaching you through a screen like this, right? So that you can get more out of it. I want you to have a solid foundation and build yourself a tower like that. That's the Meriton building here in Surfers Paradise. So, I want a solid foundation for you. You can build up your self-esteem. There's a range of techniques we can use that for to get you there, and you can rewire your brain. You just need to make a new internal decision. And when you do, it's amazing how the world and your filters change and you see opportunities you couldn't see before. This is Matthew Tait. This is the Fork in the Road YouTube channel. This is MatthewTait.com, Matthew Tait Coaching. Go check me out. See, if you want to connect, you can connect. I do one-on-one sessions, though I have limited spots, so I can't take on a lot of people right now, but you can still follow my content. I can develop some more online courses, and I'll keep on going so you can rewire your brain to have a solid foundation, build up your tower of your self-esteem, and end up in an amazing place where you see the world differently. You attract different people, and you change who you think you are. All right, guys, Matt Tait, Fork in the Road, MatthewTait.com. See you in the next video.